Welcome to the quest for the green ball, the rise of Ralu Azath. This is a week with huge implications for many teams in this league, sitting at 1-3 in desperate need of a win, and injuries are starting to creep in as well. That means that being vigilant on the waiver wire and building depth for your bench for all the important positions is a must. Also, we all have the hope that we won't be dealing with more than one or two injuries at a time. The Stellar pitches are having a rough go so far, though, and we all know that to be a futile wish for all of us. We're all going to deal with some rough weeks, especially when buys creep in. Now, two of us do look to remain undefeated. Out of the top three teams, two of these division winners have big battles ahead of them in terms of the standings. And of course, we get a battle of 1-3 teams with the losing side looking to be in big trouble. But before we get to any of those matchups, let's take a trip back to Europa, where our next Game of the Week will be held. Host and two-time champion Loki Lebowski Thor comes in at 2-2 overall after a comeback last Monday. Defending champion Remember the Titans enters 1-3 with this key road matchup that may have tiebreaker implications by season's end. The setting, of course, in this Europa versus Ganymede battle, the salt mines of Thorgard.
This week we explain the third of 4 Europa spots, the salt mines of Thorgard. A reference to the Norse god Thor, fantasized about with your superhero stories. This is actually from an ancient race of beings who own this salt mine. Actually, a chain of salt mines. Thorgard translates into the one who is under protection of Thor. Thor is really the founder of this colony, and Thorgard was the offspring who took it all over. The mine itself was a small operation until Thorgard decided to expand it with Europa's rich sodium chloride cache. This, of course, is consumed by humans as table salt, but used for medicine for many races that actually have what you may call plant biology. The salt treats their wounds and is an important resource for civilizations to fight off space bacteria and fungal infections. The problem was Thorgard's greed. Thorgard decided to raise the prices, and when other races tried to take the mine by force, Thorgard decided to deter them by cutting the heads off the mine workers and staking them all over the entrances to the vast mine that continued to grow underneath the surface of Europa. Races believed Thorgard to be erratic and possessed, and decided to look elsewhere for salt. This caused more anger in Thorgard, as now there were few miners left and no one to purchase the salt. So Thorgard decided to contact what was believed to be an ancient god to many races at the time. Many races still held on to the primitive notion of higher beings with the sole purpose of loving and helping lesser beings. This ancient god laughed as we would and decided to play with Thorgard, giving power to smite the enemies and to force others back to the salt mine out of fear. Thorgard gave nightmares across the universe with this power, causing chaos galaxies away. Civilizations crumbled, other salt mines were poisoned, leaders gave in. But once they came to get the salt, the ancient god took away Thorgard's powers, allowing them to capture and behead. Thorgard's head was put on a stake just like his miners. But no one laid claim to this mine again. Instead, it was soon discovered that anyone who touched the salt slowly crumbled into salt themselves. And the ancient god wasn't done there. Thorgard is said to still be sentient and alive, a decayed head on a stake somewhere in the area. you come across the head, don't touch the salt. But please pray to the ancient god to save you when the time comes. We would love to play too.
Yes, some sinister happenings at this place, and like that story, this matchup should have many twists and turns before a winner is decided. Former champions going head to head. It's always fun, let's be honest. Lebowski Thor might be a little extra hungry, though, not having won the Green Bowl since 2017. It's been a long time. Remember, the Titans still has the taste of victory, too, though. No one wants to let that go, so we're ready to battle. Remember, the Titans currently has a 56.4% chance to win. Saquon Barkley has been one of the top running backs in the league, while Clyde Edwards-Helaire had a huge game last week and will be looking to build on that. Both have good matchups as well. Deebo Samuel versus A.J. Brown is another key spot in the lineup, as both players can put up monster numbers and have big playability. Of course, at quarterback, you get Justin Herbert, still not 100%, against a resurgent Jared Goff, who was a beast last week and has played well this season. Lebowski Thor probably needs the Bucs to return to form as well. Jacksonville on the other side is a good matchup and looks to be a nice play for Remember the Titans. As usual, I take a player from each squad, put them under a microscope, see who might be an X factor. For Remember the Titans, I'm pulling out tight end Kyle Pitts. Pitts was considered one of the elite top tight ends before everybody did their fantasy drafts, but Pitts has not been that, trailing Kelsey and Andrews by a lot in terms of being that elite top tier. Through 4 games, he's only caught 10 passes for 150 yards, 0 touchdowns. That's the big one. To spend a high draft pick, in this case a 3rd rounder, for that kind of production screams bust. What actually hurts more is the 22 targets. Last season, Pitts had 1,026 yards on 68 catches with 110 targets. One note is that Pitts only has 1 touchdown in his career, just 1. So he's not really proved himself in that aspect. Many believed he would finally find the end zone in 2022. Remember the Titans is still waiting. This is the time to shine for Pitts, though, who could finally get some momentum. As is the usual with elite defenses, the one weakness seems to be tight ends. The Buccaneers have allowed the 5th most points to this position so far in 2022. The Bucs have actually allowed 4 touchdowns to tight ends through 4 games. And the key here is that the Bucs defense are in Lebowski Thor's starting lineup, so Pitts' touchdowns will technically be worth more than 6 points, as every score will also limit what the Bucs can do. It really feels like Pitts needs to show something to everyone here, though. Another dud of a game, and Remember the Titans could lose the slim advantage in these projections. But if Pitts turns a corner and fights off teammate Drake London for targets, well, the defending champion might be celebrating in a big way. Now, I turn to Lebowski Thor, the home side. I have to look at wide receiver Jerry Jeudy starting in the flex. Judy's already on pace for a career year with Russell Wilson under center. Through 4 games, he has 183 yards on 11 catches and also has 2 touchdowns. The 21 targets are second on the team. Who's first on the team in targets? Courtland Sutton, who's in Remember the Titans lineup. That gives a little extra storyline for Jeudy here. Jeudy can score on big plays. The problem is that the Colts defense is allowing the 5th fewest points to wide receivers this season. The caveat? They've allowed 3 touchdowns. If Jeudy can reach the end zone over Sutton, that's a big boost for Lebowski Thor. Even if both score, it could be a difference. But if Jeudy is held in check and Sutton reaches the end zone, it could be a big problem in what is expected to be a pretty close match. Whichever player or players leads one of these teams to victory, this is a huge early season battle and a special matchup for our game of the week. Of course, the rest of the league is littered with good content per usual. My 4-0 undefeated Dark Ridge Dreamers travel to take on the Stellar Bitches at the Temple of SeaTac in a Europa versus Ganymede battle. My Dreamers enter with a 55.5% chance to win. Nick Chubb versus Derrick Henry and Justin Jefferson versus Mike Evans look to be key matchups, as does David Njoku versus TJ Hawkinson at tight end. Kirk Cousins does get to cancel out Jefferson touchdowns, and both squads have backup running backs starting due to injuries, with Tyler Algier for the Dark Ridge Dreamers, Nyheim Hines for the Stellar Bitches. Based on matchups, this one is expected to be close, with touchdowns and overall balance probably being the true difference. Next, Uncle Justy hosts the Siamese Dreamcats at the Water Volcanoes of Colback in a Europa versus EO matchup between 1 and 3 teams. Uncle Justy has a slim 53.8% chance to win at the moment. A need for Chase and Kamara to live up to their draft picks remains for Uncle Justy, while the Dreamcats need Lamar Jackson and Cooper Kupp to return to their beast form from a few weeks ago. Jeff Wilson versus Cam Akers is a matchup to watch, and Devontae Smith versus Michael Pittman is another key area. Of course, the Eagles versus the Colts defense might be a spot where Uncle Justy can pull away or be let down. We'll see. The 4-0 other undefeated multiple scoregasms visit the Sulphur Mines of Barbara to take on 2-2 Risky Business in a Ganymede versus EO battle between former division mates. Risky Business enters with a 56% chance to win, the first time all season that the scoregasms aren't picked to win in the computer projections. Josh Allen versus Mahomes and Williams versus Mixon look to be interesting spots here for who gets the advantage. Jonathan Taylor is out of the game, which makes A.J. Dillon points an area of concern for the scoregasms. The Sun God, Amon-Ra St. Brown, would help the scoregasms if back at full strength, and the Hunter versus Pierce matchup at the flex position could be a game changer. The Titans and Browns defenses could also be a factor here, despite the projection, and be surprising for this to be a blowout. 1-3 AR's ayahuasca plan hopes to get back on track in a huge game against 2-2 Green Acres at the Peaks of Dracos in a Ganymede versus EO matchup. AR's ayahuasca plan has a 67% chance to win, but we all know how that works out when taking on Green Acres. Aaron Rodgers versus Burrow, and the running backs Aaron Jones and James Robinson versus Harrison Dobbins loom large, as does the Adams versus Diggs potential. Another big game by Miles Sanders could be huge for AR's ayahuasca plant, while another touchdown by Taysom Hill could change the projected points for Green Acres in a big way. Lastly, the 3-1 elite Mother Tuckers travel to the swirling skies at Havard Point to take on 2-2 the Clash at Demon Head. The elite Mother Tuckers are the clear favorite to the computer with a 78.2% chance to win. That's right, 78.2. Eckler versus McCaffrey, Hill versus Lamb, Andrews versus Ertz, and the Cowboys defense versus Buffalo could be key areas for the Clash at Demon Head, especially with the huge advantages for Hurts, Jacobs, Lockett, and Harris for the elite Mother Tuckers. Stafford will also need to play well, or this could be a very long weekend for the Clash at Demon Head. The top 3 teams can really begin to get some separation with some wins here, while the bottom of the league will most likely shuffle around again. We shall see if the top teams will fall back to the pack if some upsets occur. And of course, we're about to enter bye-week season, which usually makes things extra interesting, especially when teams are also battling major injuries. Regardless, get ready for another action-packed slate. And that's the content for the show. Hope you enjoyed it as much as me. I had a blast, per the usual. Join me again Sunday as I celebrate my Game of the Week win and give everyone another segment of the good, the bad, and the idiotic. Until next time, salut. Before you go, check out the updated standings.